When Prabhupada came in December, he did perform a wedding ceremony for Jivananda and Harsharani. And I was there for that. And I think my brother got initiated at that time also. And some devotee said to me, why don't I get initiated? And I thought, well, I'm not qualified, that's always for very high, elevated, that's a very special thing. And they said, no, just ask Prabhupada. At that time we called him Swamiji. So one day after the lecture, I raised my hand and I said, Swamiji, can I get initiated? And he looked at me and he said, will you follow the 4 principles? I said, yes. So then he nodded his head, okay. At that time, 4 other people shot up their hands and they said, can I get initiated? Can I get initiated? And Prabhupada said yes to all of them. So it was shortly after that see, my brother Krishnadas told me I should go up to Prabhupada's room, which was down the street on Willard. So I went up there one evening and I spoke to Prabhupada. I said, Swamiji, my brother Krishnadas tells me that you came back in this life because in your past life you killed a snake. So Prabhupada said, oh, your brother has told you that? And I said, yes. And that's, that was what I said to him. I didn't think of anything else to say to him.
The first instruction, actually it was a little bit of sauce. I remember the first day that I cooked, I was very nervous. I prepared things and I took them in and put them on his table. He had a little buzzer that he would ring for the servant to come. So I served him his lunch, waited, and when he rang the buzzer, I came in to take his plates and I took them out to the kitchen and I forgot to wipe the spot on his desk. So after a few minutes he rang his buzzer and I came back in and he said, you've forgotten to wipe the spot. And I said, I'm sorry, Prabhupada, and I went and got a cloth. The next day I forgot again. And when I came in, he rang his buzzer and I came in and he was strong. He said, you have forgotten again. And I remember, I took it seriously, but I took it lightly. I said, oh, I'm sorry, Prabhupada, I'll go do it. And my take on it is that he saw that I wasn't really ready for some heavy chastisement. So for months and months and months after that, I never got chastised for anything else. And I always remembered to wipe the spot.
When I did come back the next day, because I lived in Long Beach, and I took my parents' car and went to the temple early in the morning. I had met Prabhupada's secretary, Shama Sundar, at that time, and he said, "Would you like to go up and see Srila Prabhupada?" And that, of course, that was my intent. My intent was to challenge him. I had come to challenge him to see if he really is a guru, and the aspect I had made I had thought about that morning, and I made 4 points. He has to be able to know the absolute truth. He has to be able to know the process of the absolute truth. He has to be able to read my mind, and he has to know what the future is, be able to predict the future. Now, why I came up with those, who knows? But anyway, that's what I thought would give me the right answers. So I was coming in ready for, to challenge Prabhupada, and which is the Maya I was in. I was fighting with people. So I came in to challenge Srila Prabhupada, and they brought me in the room, and I sat in the back, was the only open space, and there was all these sannyasis there with dandas, which I hadn't seen before. There was like a room full of sticks, and then there was like 2 people in white dhotis, which were Karandar and Jayatirtha, and then I was the only non-initiated devotee there with my long curling hair, and I was having difficulty sitting in a lotus position because I was too muscular built up. And then Prabhupada was just finished singing a song, and he was looking around the room and looked from side to side, and then he looked straight at me, and immediately he said, "Why are you a Kripana?" And just boom, it was like, of course I was thinking, I hadn't said anything now. What is a Kripana? And be in my mind, and Prabhupada says, Kripana is opposite of Brahmana. And he started explaining how a Brahmana is the highest class in society. They're meant to know the absolute truth and be the mouth for God. And at that point, because he was so heavy, I remember Karandar and Jayatirtha and the sannyasis in the front sort of made a little aisle, so there was a direct contact for Prabhupada and me. And so I was looking at him thinking, what is this? I'm just being, screamed at of being a miserly. It means miserly. And then Prabhupada explained, he said, if you have abilities, you have abilities. Since you're not using them for Krishna, then you're a miser. So we had never met before. And I came in challenging, and so Prabhupada first took the first whap and stuck it to me. Then progressively, I started. Then he started explaining the process of bhakti, the process that the absolute truth, what the absolute truth is the lotus feet of Krishna, and then he explained the process of bhakti, of rendering service. And so progressively, my 4 prerequisites for being a guru was becoming erased one after another. Simultaneously, I was being, kicked in the face by Prabhupada's, lotus mercy, by my nonsense challenging spirit. And finally, it was at the last point, and Prabhupada was, having his way with me. And I kept ruggedly insisting in my mind, well, he didn't say any, he didn't predict the future. So, and just as I was thinking like that, obviously, Prabhupada, you could tell he was seeing right through you. And you felt naked by his vision. And Prabhupada called for Pradyumna, and which was his traveling translator, secretaries for his translations. So he asked for Pradyumna to go bring him the big volume that he translates from. This was a 10 commentary volume of the Srimad Bhagavatam, which has all the major commentaries of the Vaishnavacharyas. So at that time, in the early 70s, he had not read from the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam before. So Prabhupada then asked him, he turned it, get the book. When Pradyumna gave it to him, he turned to the 12th canto and he started predicting the future for the age of Kali. And he started saying, and he looked at me and he said, people will think they're beautiful by having long hairs. And I had this long hair. And he started explaining many of the different predictions in the age of Kali, and I felt so defeated. I hadn't even opened my mouth. I hadn't even, thank God, by Krishna's grace, I hadn't made any offenses other than offensively coming into him. And that was the very first time Prabhupada smashed me. And at that, immediately after the darshan over, I just bulleted out of the room. I mean, didn't see anybody, but ran down the stairs, jumped in the car, and started driving back home to Long Beach. And I was thinking, well, I've been called a miser, and I'm thinking all these different things. And then I'm going over all the stuff that Prabhupada said. And finally I reached home. I said, well, why don't you just face it? I'd just been defeated. And I wasn't used to being defeated, but then I remembered that this is what I was looking for, and here's an honest and regal and powerful guru, and I recognized I had been defeated. So it took a little bit of courage, and so I drove back the next morning and I wrote a check out for $1,000, and I saw Karandar down in the gift shop, so I gave it to him and made it out to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, and he looked at it. At that time, $1,000 was a really big donation, and he said, "Oh, come, give it to Srila Prabhupada." And I said, "No, that's okay." I survived the first meeting, so he put it, wait here. So he brought it up to Srila Prabhupada, and as he gave it to Srila Prabhupada, he had me waiting there, and he came back down, and he told Karandar to tell me that I have understood. So that was my first meeting with Srila Prabhupada.